and she has an informative speech, and I suggest that you listen up because it's interesting, and you never know when it can happen to you or someone you know. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to throw some dates out there. 1619. Does anyone know any significance of that? It's when the first African slaves arrived from Virginia. Then we go forward to 1865. What about that? There's the assassination of President Lincoln, and also it's when the 13th Amendment was passed and abolished slavery in the United States. Now let's go forward to the year 2000, all the way to 2010. Not many of you might know, but slavery still exists today, and it's a global phenomenon, and no country is immune to it. It is removing a child from their home or family, and it's when you transport them elsewhere in the country or overseas, and it's used to exploit them in labor or through child sexual exploitation. And it's usually for the use of money and for someone else to put them to use as well. We're going to talk about the reasons why it happens, also how many children it affects, the side effects it has, and labor and the sex industry that these children are put into. Reasons for child trafficking. There's lots of reasons that it happens. It can be causes of war and natural disasters. Also, just because there's a really big weakness in the child protection services, and the lack of laws against trafficking and domestic violence. But the main reason that most of these children are brought into this is because of family poverty. A lot of these families, they don't really have a lot of money to do anything, and when they get the chance, for whatever the reason, to send a child away for large amounts of money, they will do it. And a lot of these families are promised better lives and promise their children higher education, when in fact they sell their children to go to these schools supposedly, but they don't really know where their children are being sent. Half the times they're never reunited with their families. One main one for the, especially the males, is child labor. All around, this affects 246 million children around the world. 73 million of these children are under the age of 10 years old. And these children, they get exploited in labor. They work from everything from factories, they work agriculture, they work in fishing, manufacturing, even like restaurants and hotels and retail. And there is actually 22,000 deaths from these children, and it's because they're not protected by any laws, and they're not protected by any medical evaluations or anything like that. Half the time these children don't get to seek medical attention, or they're left to die, and a lot of these kids, the side effects of these is they suffer depression. They can go into a severe depression. They don't trust anyone, so after times they're put back into society, they're completely dysfunctional, and they don't know what's wanted from them as children because they're not treated like children. They breathe in harsh chemicals and harmful dust. Sometimes they're supposed to sit or stand in one position all day. They don't get lighting. Sometimes they don't get protective gear for these jobs they have to do just because that would cost money, and the people that put them in these positions rather not spend the money to do it. Going on to the females, most of them are females. They work in the sex industry, for pornography, child pornography, prostitution, sex slaves for soldiers. They're also forced into marriages and domestic service for these people. Asia, Cambodia, and Thailand are actually recognized most for the sex industry. The effects of emotional depression, a lot of these girls get STDs, and they're at risk of HIV and AIDS, which is transmitted to other people because they don't use protection. A lot of these girls want to commit suicide or try to commit suicide, but also in labor, they're told that if they try to escape or try to kill themselves, that their families will be killed as well. And half the times that can be true because they do have access to their families. Half the time they don't even know where their families are, so the children aren't sure if this is just a threat or if it actually happens to them. There's other things that these children get involved in, which is exploitative sports, illegal sports, kind of like if you guys are familiar with dog fighting. They also have exploitative sports for children as well. It's really underground and not too many people are informed on that. And it's just a lack of laws, like I said, that really keep a lot of this going. In conclusion with that, slavery was supposed to be abolished in 1865, yet there are millions of children who are overlooked and enslaved each year. They're exposed into child labor and the sex industry. Many of these children are, like I said, threatened with their families, so they really have no escape from this. These children are given a lack of education. They're not taught anything half of them. Taken at a young age, don't really know how to communicate well, so they can't really get across to what they need in life. A lot of them don't even know how to read or write, anything like that. Anything is like having a close friend. A lot of these kids aren't really prone to having a feeling of love or having someone there with them. So they really lose their chance with the kids, and I think it's something that everyone should be informed about. I think it's really interesting and it's a big deal. Any questions?
So where did you get most of your information on it?
There's a lot of websites. There's just type in child trafficking on Google, and there's a lot of websites. And there's a lot of, they also have, what's it called, children that tell their stories, and then they have like the websites of things that they're trying to do to save it or stop it. On 2004, I think it was June 8th. It's actually World Day Against Child Labor. I don't know if any of you are aware of that. They also have a Ray of Hope, which is another organization that their main focus is stopping child trafficking and the trafficking of the sex industry for women and children. Any other questions?
So, who's critiquing for her? I think you can sit down. We'll let the critiquer have.
Three positives and three negatives. She had a good intro. I don't know if you guys got caught like the questions right away. Like it caught my attention.
Speak up a little.
Oh, her eye contact with us, like she was always looking at us and like looking all over the place. And I thought her projection and her voice was really clear. Like I was sitting in the seat and I could hear her. Her negatives, just like me, she was crossing her legs. She was playing with her hands a lot, and I think her conclusion was a little bit too brief. That's it.